Hey peeps, it's Julian here from Disrupt Tutoring, and as always, it's such a pleasure to join you. Today we are looking at question 2 from the 2017 paper 1 Maths Lit, and this question deals with data handling, reading data off from a table, and as well as a little bit of financial maths. So they've given us a table that has the bus fare in rands for single trips between two towns. And they've also told us that these bus fares is including of VAT, which is 14%. So how this table works is they've given us a city, and so this is the starting city going down in this column. So if you start from Port Elizabeth and you want to go to Grahamstown, you read off there, it's going to say, it says there that it's 305 Rand. If you wanted to go to Queenstown from Port Elizabeth to Queenstown, you read it as this piece of data, which is 395 Rand. Same thing goes for all the other towns. So if you wanted to leave from Bloemfontein, for example, and go to King Williamstown, you would read it off over there that it's 435. So obviously these are blank because you can't leave from Port Elizabeth to Port Elizabeth because it costs nothing to go from a town that you already started, or to a town that you already started from. So that explains why these are all blank for the ones that are the same. So keeping that in mind, we're going to go into 2.2.1, which is the first question. It says write down the second highest bus fare for a single trip. So this you can do by just scanning all the data and looking for the second highest. So if we go through this first row for Port Elizabeth, I see that the highest here is 515. If I go down this row, I see there's nothing higher than 515. There's another 515. If I go down the next row, there's nothing close, but the second highest I've now seen is a 465, which is if you want to go from King Williamstown to Volcom. The same if you go down this row here, so there's nothing that I see that's any higher than that. This fifth row, there's nothing down here that's higher than 465. Down this row here, there's no higher than 465, and there's another 515, and there's another 465, but nothing higher. So it's clear that our highest is 515 and our second highest is 465. So you need to read that off and write down that the answer is 465 Rand. Okay, and 2.1.2 is now asking us between which two cities is the bus fare 350. So now let's scan this table again and look for where 350 is, and I can see that it's over here. So what you need to then do is find out what town. So we're going from Queenstown to King Williamstown. So the answer is Queenstown and King Williamstown. That's the answer for 2.1.2. Okay, on to 2.1.3. So 2.1.3, they said a person travels from Port Elizabeth to Bloemfontein via another city, and they've called the city X, and they used two different buses to get there. The total cost for the one-way trip is 755. Now in A, they're asking us to calculate the cost from PE to city X. So they've told us that from PE, Port Elizabeth, to Bloemfontein is how much. So we can read this off the graph. So we said from Port Elizabeth, which is over here, to Bloemfontein, which is over there, is this reading over here. So we can read it off as R435 straight off the table. So that means that the remaining amounts spent on this trip must be from PE to this city X. So PE to X must be the R755, which they told us was the total trip, minus the trip it would take from PE to Bloemfontein. And put that in your calculator. So 755 minus 435, and you get the answer of R320. Okay, and then B says, hence identify city X. So they've told us now that the person goes from PE to the city X, right? In A. So from PE to city X. So we know we're looking at this row over here with PE. And we're looking for a trip that costs 320 Rand. So it has to be this data point over here, 320 Rand. So from Port Elizabeth to Kings Williamstown, it's going to cost 320. So the answer is King Williamstown. Moving on, I'm just going to clear the screen, so I will do a new slide here. And we've got, so the same question, 2.1.4, continuing 2.1.4, is now asking to determine the cost, excluding that 14% VAT, for a single bus fare that costs 365. So to take away the VAT percentage of 14%, so if you think about the total costs of the ticket minusing the 14% would be X, X amount, and that's 100% of the cost. But now you need to add 14% of that to get this final figure. So that means we're actually dealing with 114% of the total. So what does that means mathematically is that we first need to calculate how much tax was added. So we know that we can find out that the total amount was 365. And if we times that by 14%, okay, out of, as I said, so the total is the cost plus the VAT, which is actually a total of 114%. So if we take that total and we multiply it by 14 out of 114, put that into your calculator, you get that the tax was R44.82 Rand. Okay, so that's how much VAT was. And then to calculate the cost then, excluding VAT, so cost excluding VAT will then be the 365 minus that R44.82, and you put that in your calculator. So this is a bit neater, is the 365. So 365 minus 44.82 in your calculator is 320.18, and that's the cost excluding VAT. And then finally, it's 2.1.5. It's saying that Lindiwe travels from Queenstown to Bloemfontein and back once a month. Calculate her total return traveling cost for 1 year. So obviously there's 12 months in a year. So let's go back to our table and we read that it says from Queenstown to Bloemfontein, and we can read off. So in here it's 410 Rand for a one-way trip. So first of all, we need to calculate how much does it cost for not a one-way but a return trip, because she goes there and back. So once a month she does one return trip, so I'll call it the return trip, will equal the 410 times by 2, because she goes from Queenstown to Bloemfontein, does what she needs to do, and then goes back from Bloemfontein to Queenstown at the end of that day. So that's a return trip. So we know that this equals 820. You can put that in your calculator. Okay, so then it says that we need to then calculate how much her traveling costs are for 1 year. So for 1 year then we need to multiply it by 12 months, because this is the cost per month. So the unit here would be per month. So for 1 year would be this 820 multiplied by 12, which equals, in your calculator, are 9,840. So that's the final answer. Before I go, I'd just like to say a special thank you to our epic sponsors for making this video possible. Read all about them in the description below. Be sure to visit our website for more of these epic tutorials. And remember, if you can't find the answer to your question, you can send us your question and we will respond with a personalized video just for you. And until then, stay epic.